Welcome to Brea Talks, an insider's look into topics that affect your experiences in the city of Brea. Whether you live, work, or play here, we're bringing you the information you need to better understand your city. So now, we invite you to listen in as Brea Talks. Hello, I'm Dan Fenstermaker, and welcome to our 5th season of Brea Talks. As we're kicking off the new year and tax season is already upon us, we wanted to bring to light a very important topic for folks to be aware of. So for our first episode of Season 5, Brea Talks, Liars and Scammers and Fraud. Oh my. With us today is Investigator Mike Janetzke, from the Brea Police Department. Mike, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, before we get started, I did want to mention, I mentioned this last year when we talked about wildfires and what to do. Occasionally we have a topic that isn't fun or super positive. However, these are often the most important topics because we need our community to hear what is happening and what to do about it. We're trying very hard not to sensationalize anything or fearmonger, but we do want to give people the truth and also the tools to better equip themselves in preventing becoming a victim of these types of crimes. So we hope to accomplish that today. Mike, tell us a little bit about the evolution of fraud and why maybe we've seen a bit of a boom in different types of fraud maybe over the past couple decades.
So the interesting thing about fraud is it really hasn't changed much over the decades. Some of the mechanics of the frauds that we used to see are still around today. So snake oil salesmen, Ponzi schemes, finance schemes and scams, romance scams, even then. The bait and switch. These are all things that used to be done in person. You usually saw your perpetrator. But the common denominator now is the fact that we have technology. And technology has, I'd like to say that technology is an equal opportunity enhancer. It makes good things really good, but at the same time, it can make bad things really bad.
Sure.
And it just kind of presents an opportunity for charlatans to pretend to be something they're not and facilitate scams. And it is basically so easy that it's really become prolific.
Got it. Okay, so you just touched on a few different types. And I know that there's a few different types of crimes, financial crimes, especially regarding how victims are targeted. One that we maybe hear the most about, when we think of financial crime is identity theft. Talk to us a little bit about identity theft.
Yeah, so identity theft is kind of at the forefront of everybody's knowledge simply because the news and the press has told us about these massive data breaches that have happened in healthcare places and stuff like that. So basically what an identity thief is looking for is what we call PII, and that's personal identifying information. That would be anything that you would have had in, say, a old school Rolodex or your little black book, things that have name, addresses, phone numbers, those types of things. So any of that information plus any type of account number, password, credit card number, driver's license number, all those things, those are also included in PII. And in the state of California, it is against the law for anybody to possess that information without your express permission. So that's basically what they're looking for. And most of the time with the larger data breaches, they're not getting 100% of the information they need to actually go out and commit crime with your identity. So what they'll do is they'll take the information from those large data breaches, and then they'll kind of couple it with whatever information they can find out about you. So they'll search your social media accounts, they'll look at your photos, they'll search other data breaches until they put all these puzzle pieces together and come up with everything that they would need to go out and commit a crime, such as opening a credit card in your account, buying a telephone, a cellular phone, those types of things. And that's mostly what they're after.
I see. Regarding PIIs, and you mentioned, it's illegal to possess, that. What are they possessing? I mean, it's all digitized now. Like you mentioned, it'd be back in the day, it would be on a Rolodex or a black book or whatever. Now it's all digital, which is why it's so accessible to these criminals. Where would we start looking for them possessing that?
So one of the big ones right now is mail theft. that's where people are, getting the basis for somebody's identity.
I see.
And there's a couple different kinds of people that are mail thieves, right? We do have a population mostly that are drug users that will steal mail and they'll use it as currency. They'll be able to trade it for their drug of choice or those types of things to a person that is the true identity thief who takes that information, fleshes it out, and then goes out and commits crime with it. Mail theft will sometimes give like checking information. So they'll look at bank statements. They'll actually take checks. So if you're paying your water bill or you're receiving a paycheck or those types of things, that's what the mail thieves grab, and that's where they're getting the basis. And that's all written information. Then the true identity thieves, they start data mining and they put this together, and that's all digital. And where the police department actually gets more information and gets evidence against that is when we do make an arrest. We do seize their electronics. So we look at their phones, we look at their computers. You open up a computer, you'll find these massive data files with hundreds of different identities in there. And in the state of California, you can aggregate those charges. So It's not like if you have 10 identities, you're guilty of one identity theft. No, you're actually guilty of 10 different charges of identity theft. So it racks up pretty good.
Wow. That is, that's intense for sure. You mentioned checks, you mentioned water bills, tax time.
Yes.
I mentioned at the top of the show, this has got to be kind of a little bit of a hotbed in terms of times of the year that you might see a little bit of a boom in this.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, here in the city of Brea, it's already started where we've had some neighborhood HOAs and areas that have the large gang mailboxes, where you have a series of 10 or 20 mailboxes at the end of the street. Well, they're starting to hit those already. And the best thing is I'm thinking it's tax time. Mm-hmm. So all of the information that somebody would need, like your complete information needed to open a credit card, that's on your tax statement.
Wow.
The other thing they're looking for is your refund check.
Sure.
So they'll take that.
Yeah, that's where my mind went first, is the refund check, but I didn't even consider the fact that that's you. I mean, that's your whole...
Absolutely.
That's the whole enchilada there on your tax statement.
Social security number, address, all that, how much you make per year, all the things that you would actually need. I could probably go out and buy a car with the information that you put on your tax return.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, and that's what they're doing, and it's an issue because they'll wreck somebody's credit. They'll open up 3 or 4 credit cards, run them up to the max, and then they'll get rid of them, and the victim doesn't find out until 3 months later when a collection company is sending them letters. All
right, well, so shifting gears, maybe, and I mentioned identity theft is maybe more well known because we hear about it on TV and on the radio. These commercials there's an entire market for protecting and fighting for victims of identity theft. Companies out there, but maybe one that we actually internally are more aware of, depending on the level of our skepticism, are scams. When you get that phone call that you don't realize, you don't recognize that number, or you see that email that doesn't quite look legit. I know I immediately go to, is this for real? Talk to us a little bit about scams and what we've seen evolve in that arena.
Yeah, so scams have really become its own pandemic across the United States. It really doesn't have a age or target audience. We've all gotten probably the text message from Metro saying that you use the carpool lane and you owe us money to do it. Almost everybody has had that, and those are it's large scale phishing. They cast this really big net out to every phone number they can think of, and then whoever responds, they try and exercise their scam. But
that example right there, I mean, I can't tell you, I'm pretty skeptical about stuff. And my in-laws and I shared the same toll road account, and I knew that they had gone out to the Inland Empire that weekend, and I got a message, and I was convinced that it was legit, but I stopped, and I was like, that's the perfect example, because that's the one that you just don't. You might check your credit card every once in a while, your statement and everything like that. But I mean, if you're not using the toll road on a regular basis, I mean, that's just a great example of how sneaky good these things can look.
Absolutely. And they are even as simple of, because maybe you've gotten this one, hello,
Yeah.
or are you there?
Yes.
The one I've got a couple of is I'm coming to LA in December, want to go hiking. And it's
Yes.
like, I don't even
Yes.
know this person. I don't know this number.
Yes.
And it's just, and it's all random. And believe it or not, it's all computer generated. It's just a simple computer going telephone number by telephone number, sending this text message, trying to see who will respond.
Okay, so let's take this. Then another example that I've seen just in the last couple of months. My wife and I both have gotten these, and it's like, it's sad and it's tragic, but it's kind of a crack up. Some of these random text messages. What is that? What are they looking for there? They're looking for somebody to respond, and then what?
They're looking for engagement. All they want to know is if there's a human being on the other end of that telephone,
And then build, and then a relationship builds.
Yes, absolutely. So the first step in a scam is engagement. They can't scam you if you're not talking to them. So that's, we'll talk about some ways to protect ourselves a little later, but it all starts with that engagement of being able to get somebody on the phone and start a conversation. And from that conversation, they go into the psychological manipulation and those types of things that actually propagate you going and getting money and giving it to them. So yeah, it's all about engagement. So that the computer reaches out. If you answer, it flags your number, hands it off to a for real scammer, who then either gives you a call back, or you call the 1-800-TAKE-MY-MONEY that's on all of these different different messages, and that's where it actually begins.
Man, at first I just thought it was a wrong number.
Yeah, it seems very innocent.
And
yep.
Yeah, but I'm sure that there are people that respond with, "I'm sorry, I think you have the wrong number," and it's then there's a response probably to that.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. And they've expanded how they try and get that first engagement. So some of the other scams that are very well known out there is the old pop-up screen from one of the antivirus companies. So you're working along on your computer, all of a sudden it pops up and it says, "Hey, you have a virus, call 1-800-TAKE-MY-MONEY." You call that 1-800 number, and now you've engaged.
They take your money.
Yeah, you've started the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And then so and it's usually in the guise of helping somebody out. One of the ones I've seen here in Brea was an email went out that it was just a blanket email that said, "Hey, the 10 things that seniors should purchase most from Amazon." And it's a very simple email. People open it up, and it has good information. It's a real website, but embedded in there is that little bug that makes that antivirus screen pop up. And then they see it. They think, "Oh, no, I've got a virus." They call the 800 number, and then the scam begins.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, so Mike, I've heard of this term cognitive paralysis. Can you tell us what that means exactly?
Yeah, so cognitive paralysis is the tool that scammers use against their victims. It's the next step after engagement. Once you've had this conversation, they're buddy-buddy with you, you figure out in your mind, "Oh, okay, they're a really nice guy, they're going to help me." Then they move on to cognitive paralysis. Now, what that is cognitive paralysis is where I would tell you something that is so emotionally jarring that you lose the capability for critical thinking.
Okay.
So they will always discover that, oops, something is wrong. Okay. And they will use the computer to actually do that. Like there's a refund scam that's out there right now. So once they have access to your computer, they'll ask you to, you're going to get a refund, and you fill out this form and you say, "Okay, well, you're going to get a $3,000 refund." So you fill out the form, and the form changes and it automatically says, "Oh, $30,000. And they come back and they say, "Oh, you made a mistake. This is wrong. You put in the wrong number, and now we just transferred you $30,000. And then they'll show you a fake bank statement that shows $30,000 in your account. And they say, "Now you have to give it back, and you have to give it back right away. So you need to go to the bank, get out cash, and we will send someone to your house to pick it up."
No way.
Yep, that's an actual scam, and it's happening a lot, the refund scam. So they'll tell you that something is wrong, and that's just one particular way. Other scams are they'll tell you that a family member has been injured, or your grandson has been locked up in a Mexican jail, and somebody needs to come up with $20,000 in cash to be able to rectify that situation. They'll also say that you have a warrant for your arrest because you did something wrong on your taxes, or there's something wrong with your home title, and that needs to be rectified. They're always going to ask for money to fix the problem. And they'll even go so far as to plant evidence on your computer that makes you believe these things are actually true. They'll accuse you of a crime, and you'll look at your computer, and now all of a sudden, boom, there it is, incriminating evidence on your computer, and you're so emotionally jarred, you feel like you're going to get in trouble, that you actually don't have the ability to stop and think, well, is this really too bad to be true?
Almost like shock and awe.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah,
and they will propagate that feeling in you. A lot of these scams take place over several months. Once they've got their hooks into you, and after you make the first payment, they'll come back a week later and they'll start a different scam all over again. And they use these terrible stories or this terrible treatment of you to make you bring forth more money. They start out as really nice guys, but if you start to push back, well, then they become rude. And after that point, if they feel they're losing you or you're pushing back a little too much, then they get downright mean and say some really terrible lies like, we're watching your house, we know where your kids live, those types of things. It's quite damaging.
It's like, we think of sociopaths and we think of murderers, serial killers, the worst kind of physical criminals. But I mean, this is like, it's just as bad, if not worse, in terms of like the lack of remorse and the just complete lack of humanity.
100%. And this is their full-time job. They're very well practiced at it. They sound very convincing. And they're very successful. And you're right. In my mind, it's really almost as bad as a victim getting stabbed in the back. It hurts just as much. It's damaging. The emotional damage is incredible. The psychological damage scars you for life. And the difference between the two is at least if you get stabbed in the back, you can recover from that wound. Whereas if somebody takes your entire retirement and life savings, there's no coming back from that. It's clearly quite dangerous. The bottom line is nobody under any circumstances should really be asking anybody for cash money, especially for our retirees. You're retired. That's your nest egg. That's what you're supposed to spend for the rest of your life. That's yours. Nobody should be asking you to participate in an investment or financing a new restaurant. Nobody should be asking you for money. And a really big red flag is if they're asking for not real money. So if somebody asks you to go buy $1,000 in gift cards and give them the numbers off the back, that's not really. That's a scam. Nobody does it. It's not currency.
What about crypto?
Crypto's another one. If they ask you, and a lot of these crypto ATMs are located in some of the seediest sections of town, in liquor stores and those types of things. And somebody's going to ask you to take $10,000 cash to an ATM in a liquor store in a town that's usually not your own town. They have you go somewhere else and deposit it. That's just not real. The other thing is gold bars is another thing that's
really
been a trend. Yeah. They'll have the victim actually buy gold bars. They'll coach them through the process. They'll tell them exactly what to tell the gold dealer. The gold gets shipped to their house, and then the victim will either turn around and ship that gold to somewhere else in the country, or they may even send a courier out to actually pick up the gold from the victim. And we're finding out that these couriers are actually flying in from other states. So the scammers will pay for an individual from a different state to get on a plane, come to Brea, come to your door, take that gold bar, go back to the airport, get on an airplane, and leave the state.
That is just unbelievable. I mean, that is just crazy. So I guess, I mean, and you touched on it at the beginning of this section. If it's too good or too bad to be true, it
Absolutely.
probably is.
Yep. Think twice. Is it too good to be true? Did you really, did you really win the Publishers Clearinghouse when you didn't even fill out the form?
Sure.
It's just kind of too good to be true.
If you have a relative locked up in a jail somewhere, maybe call another relative to confirm that they were even there.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the number one way to prevent this is when you find out something or you hear these things that are too good to be true or too bad to be true, disengage. Hang up the phone. Anything that they're telling you can wait at least 10 minutes for you to call a friend, call a relative, get somebody else's opinion on to whether or not this seems true or whether it might actually be a scam.
Yeah, it's just unreal. So, I mean, so the beat goes on. So clearly people continue to fall victim to these exact things. Otherwise, the well would dry up and things would get better and not worse. But these, you said it, that this is their job, and it's their job because they're very good at what they do.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's give folks some good here, some tools to protect themselves. Going back to identity theft, let's start simple. What are we talking about here? Are we talking about changing our passwords regularly? How easy is it to protect yourself from identity theft?
Absolutely. So change your passwords regularly. Make sure that they're something a little more complex, and don't involve things that somebody might be able to find out about you, from like your social media or other information that's out there about you. It's very easy if your password is, I love puppies 101. Somebody can go to your social media page and find out that your username over there is I love puppies. And then they can go start exploring with that and end up coming up with usernames and passwords, those types of things. So so safeguarding the way you're online is a good one. For mail theft, the best thing to do is to pick up your mail every day. A lot of people have gotten in the habit of leaving mail in the mailbox for 2 or 3 days, and that's where they will lose things the most. So pick up your mail religiously. When it comes to checks and financial, it's best not to use the mail for that. I know the days of putting a check in the mail for your rent or your utilities or those types of things. That was what we did. That's how life was done. But it just seems to be so vulnerable right now. So things like paying online, paying your bills online, we're going to use those technology tools that they've given us to make it safer for us. So use some of those tools if you possibly can.
Okay. I think just to piggyback on that, paying online, paying your bills online, but make sure that you are the one logging into the account. Make sure that you are it's not an email, because emails can look legit. They can look like your utility company asking to settle up, a payment that maybe, it's claiming you missed or whatever. Those are typically, if that's out of the normal, just keep a skeptical mind on those types of things. Yeah,
make sure that you're using the information that you get that's on your statement, those types of things. Most banks, utilities, and other of those types of agencies, their policy is not to contact you via phone or via text. And if they do, they're never going to ask you for your account information. They're never going to ask you for your PIN number to get into the account. If you let's say you get a message that, that you have a problem with your bank account, best thing to do is to take that paper, go directly to the bank and speak with somebody that's real, somebody that you can look in your eyes, you can have a conversation, you know who they are. They're not just some name or voice on the other end of a telephone line.
For sure. And that kind of goes into when I say, scams, especially with the use of technology. Probably your best advice is, if possible, talk to a real person.
Absolutely. One of the drawbacks of technology over the last century, as it becomes such an integral part of our lives, is it allows us to have interpersonal relationships with people that we don't know, which can be a great thing. But at the same time, we're allowing yourselves to get into interpersonal relationships with people that we don't know. We don't know who they are. We don't have a face to look at. We don't know where they live. The things that make up an interpersonal relationship between two human beings in person is totally different from what you're getting, online or on a screen. And it's become so commonplace that we've become very comfortable with that. And so with that good, you also get the bad.
Sure.
Because technology is an equal opportunity enhancer.
Yeah.
It makes the good good and the bad really bad. So we lose that thought that perhaps the person on the other end of the screen isn't real or isn't there for good reasons. They're there for nefarious reasons.
Got it. You're hosting a community meeting, a couple of them actually, here in the city of Brea in March of 26. Talk about that.
Yes, we are, and the police department is really excited about it. It's a community outreach program that we've titled Liars and Scammers and Fraud, Oh My.
Sounds familiar.
Yes. So it takes place on Friday, March 27th at 6 p.m. It's going to be hosted here at City Hall in an upstairs conference room. And then we'll be repeating the program again the following day, Saturday, March 28th at 2 p.m. And during the course of the presentation, we're going to go over basically all things scam and fraud. We're going to be able to show you some of the mechanics of how they work. We'll talk about the psychology of why they work. We'll give you some examples. We'll show you some drone footage of some arrests that were made and some pictures from some of these scam centers located in other countries and what they look like from the inside. So we're going to have a lot of great information. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Very cool. Just to be clear to the listeners, I borrowed the title from you, not the other way around. I just want to make sure that I am not. I can be clever, but I wasn't that clever this time. I have to give credit where credit is due here. Liars and Scammers and Fraud. Oh my. Friday, March 27th and Saturday, March 28th.
And to sign up for it, what we're asking is, because we have limited seating, is to make a reservation. So on the Brea Police Department webpage, there's a place you can go in, you sign in, you put in what your name is, how many people you believe are going to attend, and the date that you want to attend, and we'll put you down and reserve a seat for you.
Perfect. Right there on the on the homepage of the BreaPD.com.
That's correct.
All right. Well, again, certainly not the most fun of topics, I know, but incredibly important, extremely valuable information. Mike, please keep up the great work. Thank you so much for all that you do, and thank you for coming on. And
thank you, Dan, for having me, and we're proud of what you do out here, and thank you so much for helping us spread the word and keep the people of Brea safe.
Appreciate it. That's it for this episode of Brea Talks. This episode and all episodes of Brea Talks can be heard wherever you get your podcast, as well as on Brea TV and our Brea TV app. Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, rate, and review, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again for listening in as Brea Talks.